Would you like to know what it's like to work as an inpatient case manager at a large, not-for-profit academic hospital that sees patients from all over the world? Then join us today as we learn about a day in the life of an inpatient case manager at the Cleveland Clinic.
Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle, whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started.
I am really excited this week to have 2 special guests, Michele and Stephanie from the Cleveland Clinic. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys start by introducing yourself. Michele, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Michele Kuhr. I am the manager of inpatient case management here at the Cleveland Clinic at the main campus. I've been here at the clinic for about 5 years. I started as a float case manager, so I've worked on many different floors in many different buildings here on campus. I also have experience on the UM side of case management and commercial insurance before my role here. Clinically, my background is working as an emergency department nurse for many years. But I really love this part of nursing that, not many people know about because it keeps you at the bedside, but you don't have the physical and, I guess, mental stresses of being a bedside nurse, especially at the main campus here. It challenges your nursing knowledge, and being a teaching institution that truly loves to teach everyone, not just physicians. You will learn something new every day. So,
Awesome.
Great job. Yeah.
Awesome. It sounds very exciting, and I love the way you described it. It sounds very enticing, I'm sure, to a lot of our listeners. Okay. Stephanie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Doibo. Currently, I'm assistant nurse manager here in the inpatient case management department at the Cleveland Clinic. I've been here at the Cleveland Clinic for about 4 years now. And prior to that, I was a surgical nurse at another hospital. I definitely wanted to explore a different aspect of nursing. And another nurse had told me about case management. What is case management? And so I came to the Cleveland Clinic, and obviously case management is totally different from my surgical background. But it was something new, and it was something different. And it's still somewhere where I could use my critical, thinking skills and still be an integral part of a patient's life. So I definitely don't regret coming to the Cleveland Clinic. I don't regret coming to case management. It's been great.
Awesome. And I think you both have alluded to that a lot of people don't know exactly what case management is and exactly what inpatient case management is. And I'm sure they don't understand what inpatient case management at the Cleveland Clinic looks like. So let's start off by just talking about what does that look like? What does a day in the life of an inpatient case manager at the Cleveland Clinic look like? What are your roles, responsibilities? Who do you work with? And Stephanie, you can take that one.
So a day in the life of the Cleveland Clinic inpatient case manager. Honestly, Deanna, we get the sickest of the sick. We are some of our patients' last hope for care. And our goal is to get our patients to transition back to their home or get them to their next level of care. We specialize in complex discharge planning. Many of our patients have complex medical diagnoses, and they have high-risk medical procedures and multiple comorbidities. So it could be very challenging. And we have a very dynamic environment here. No 2 days, I think Michele had alluded to, that there's no 2 days are the same. We learn something new every single day. So prior to becoming an assistant nurse manager, I had a caseload, and I would usually work in the neuro unit. Our caseloads here encompass a diverse patient population from various geographical locations, meaning different states, and it may even include a patient from another country. Being on the neuro floor, my day would start when we first arrive at the hospital. We have our assignment via email for the day. And our unit, specifically our neuro unit, has a very structured and organized huddle in the morning. We obtain report from our providers for our patients. And the caseload would consist of stroke patients, tumor patients, and spine surgeries. After our initial assessment, some of our patients have no skilled needs. However, we always have to make sure that our patients have transportation back home. Now, the majority of our patients, let's just say the neuro unit, would need coordination to transition to home with home care, acute rehab, and skilled nursing facilities. But if you're a case manager on an ortho floor, the majority of your patients are going to transition home with home care and need DME, durable medical equipment. Or if you're on the colorectal floor, then a lot of your patients would go home with TPN. So the typical day would basically depend on what unit you work on. But no matter what unit you work on, even like a case manager that's working on the ICU, their day would look different as well. But again, no matter what unit you work on, if you have a patient, say for instance, that has no skilled needs, a provider may come to you later on in the day and say, we've tried to wean this patient off of oxygen all day. We're going to have a DSAT study. And now, you have to do a new oxygen, setup for home. So we work with interdisciplinary team. There's nurse case managers and there's social work case managers. And we work collaboratively because we have medically and socially complex patients.
Awesome. That was the best description of a day in the life that I have heard. You did a wonderful job, Stephanie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I think that as much as that encompassed what it looks like to be a case manager at a large hospital like this, every hospital system is different. I think one of the most important things when you're looking for a job or a position, is what is the culture like at an institution? Because it's really important not just to like the job, but to align with the culture and the, just what is that company or that system like? So could you tell me a little bit about the culture at the Cleveland Clinic?
Absolutely. When you ask about the culture of the Cleveland Clinic, I instantly think of three core values: teamwork, innovation, and quality and safety. The culture here recognizes that no one person or team can do it alone. We recognize that the value of an interdisciplinary team. As a case manager, you truly are a valued part of the team. Now, when I speak about, so that was the teamwork. Now, going into innovation as one of the core values, I think about all the continuous improvement projects that we are involved in here at the Cleveland Clinic. As a result of these projects, new programs and ideas are created. A lot of these projects come from like A3 meetings that we have. I do have an example of a project that we had for stroke patients. That's how one of our programs resulted. It's called Home Care Plus. Our case management department has a seat at the table now for all of these continuous improvement endeavors. Now, when I think of quality and safety, our safety definitely is reflected in all of our transitional planning. No matter where we are in the hospital, no matter what unit we work in, we want to make sure all of our patients have a safe discharge plan.
I really love that. I don't know how you can be a case manager without having a great team and teamwork, because it is so important. So that the actual culture of the institution is in favor of teamwork. That really helps. And I love the innovation too, because we as case managers are always innovating and always having to come up with something new. So I really, I enjoy that. I think that's great. Now, you had mentioned earlier that you handle a lot of international patients. I think that's something that may be a little bit unique to your organization and a couple other large organizations. I don't think everybody and every case manager necessarily has that in their caseload. So can you tell me a little bit about how you handle the challenges of international patients?
Sure. The beauty of the Cleveland Clinic is that we do have a global patient service department that is very helpful in assisting us to anticipate patient needs and getting services and equipment that the patient may need, whether they are staying locally for treatment or they're traveling back to their home country. Our patient population includes people from all over the world, and we rely on in-person and telephone translators to assist in maintaining open communication. You know, during the peak of the COVID pandemic, I do remember having a patient from another country. There actually was no interpreter for the dialect of the language that the patient spoke. The discharge plan was for him to transition to one of our Cleveland Clinic connected acute rehabs. At that time, a family member, his brother, could not stay with the patient at the facility. I had to advocate for the patient to allow his brother to stay at the acute rehab because there was a language barrier there. And I knew for this patient to have an optimal outcome for to maintain his health, it would have been good for his brother to remain at the acute rehab. So that's just one scenario of many scenarios where we need to advocate for our patients on an international level.
And that is such a wonderful example of what case managers do and how your day is different every day.
Yes.
Each patient is individual, and
Yes.
One stroke patient does not look like another stroke patient. And the fact that as case managers, we have to look at that and really see that each patient is an individual, and what does this individual need to succeed and reach their goals. So that's really awesome. And I love how you have all the support because your organization realizes that you do have a lot of international patients. They've set up systems and processes to handle this instead of just trying to figure it out each time. So that's
absolutely
wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Now, I think it's fair to say that just about every hospital system out there is facing some type of nursing shortage right now. How is an organization as large as the Cleveland Clinic handling the nursing shortage? Michele, do you want to take that one?
Sure. The nursing shortage has hit our area in Northeast Ohio pretty hard. But, one thing that COVID has taught us is how to do our job when we weren't able to be present at the bedside. And that has translated into what we now have is a hybrid work at home model for some of our caregivers. Not everybody chooses to work at home, and that's okay, but others really like to have that option. Another way we've adapted to the staffing shortage is to increase the amount of ancillary help we have. So we now have 2 different teams of ancillary support that the case management staff at the main campus. We have an offsite team that provides clerical support, and they arrange transport, they build and send referrals for us, and they manage our pre-cert process. And then we have an on-site team that provides the patient-facing assistance by delivering the CMS required letters. They assemble and deliver discharge packets for patients discharging to facilities. And then they work with patients who would like to complete their advance directives, like their healthcare power of attorney and their living will while they're in the hospital. So that's really helpful. And it takes, that extra time that all these things take for the case manager. It takes that away off their plate. And we want to make sure that, the time that case managers, that the nurses and the social workers are spending with their patients, that they're doing that at the top of their licensure scope. And the clerical work is done by non-licensed people. So that's one of the things that we have done to help with the shortage. Deanna, what have you seen for, other healthcare systems that are coping with that nursing shortage?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I'm seeing a lot of ancillary staff coming in, but I'm also seeing, it's either done well or it's not done well, unfortunately. So a lot of a lot of health systems are doing it well. They're doing like you are, they're pulling in ancillary staff. They're taking the burden off of the nurses and the case managers, and they're letting them work at the top of their license, and they're bringing in other staff to work underneath them. Unfortunately, some that are not doing it so well, they're just kind of making their people work harder and, forcing overtime, forcing them if they don't work a certain amount of hours. I've actually know of one system that was cutting the pay for their PRN or whatever you want to call them, because they wanted to incentivize them to work full time, but they don't want to work full time. So it kind of backfired. And using a lot of travelers, which I think travel nursing is a great option for those who want to do it. I think it is putting a Band-Aid on the problem, and it creates more of a problem. So I like what you and your organization is doing in letting the licensed staff work at the top of their license. And I hope that other organizations will take lessons from this.
Yeah, that's very true. We have a few travelers, but they're also very hard to find as well. So when you can't find them, you still have to come up with ideas on your own of how you're going to get all the work done and see all the patients. Is this are these changes just because of we're in a post-pandemic world and we got to figure it out, or what do you think?
I think the pandemic has definitely changed a lot. For case managers, we've had to learn really fast how to pivot and how to use our network. Hopefully we had a great network and a great team, and we had great relationships with our providers and with our DME companies and with our rehabs, so that we could really work with them and get our patients what they need. But I don't see there being a quick end to this. I think it's something that we, from the beginning, a lot of people said this is our new normal, and it is our new normal. And it's
exactly
what I'm seeing is so many nurses are saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be at the bedside. I don't want to be working 5 12-hour days. I loved working 3 12-hour days, but I don't want to work 5 12-hour days. And I don't want to be making mistakes because I'm burned out. They are looking for other careers like case management, where they can still use their nursing skills and they can still make a difference in the lives of their patients, and they can still advocate and maybe even do it better than they could as a bedside nurse. And when I say better, not that they weren't doing it as well. I mean better in that they have more opportunity to do it, and their voices are heard a little bit better than they were heard at the bedside. So, I think this is going to be an ongoing challenge, and I think the organizations that are doing it well are going to rise above. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of organizations that just can't find good workers, because nurses normally, studies have shown that nurses go where their friends tell them to go. And if they like their job, they will go and work at that place. But if they don't like it, they're going to tell their friends to stay clear, and they normally do.
Yeah. Now, our hybrid model is new for us, and we're trying to figure it out. I think we're doing it well, but do you have any suggestions or any recommendations for inpatient case managers working from home?
Yeah, working from home is definitely different than working in any organization, whether you're working in the hospital or whether you're working even in an insurance company and sitting next to other people, because you don't have the person that you can turn around to and say, hey, what do you think about this? So just because you don't have that person you can turn around to, you still have other options of reaching out, because case management is a lot of collaboration. We need to pool our resources. We need to learn from others about maybe a resource that they've obtained and how they did it. One of the things that I find with nurses when they start working from home is they don't realize how long they've been sitting. And I know that it might sound silly, but you realize when you go to stand up and you're sore because on the floor, we are used to moving, constantly moving. We might sit for a little bit and do some charting, but we're walking from place to place. We're talking, we're getting up, we're sitting down. And when you start working from home, you could easily sit for 4 hours straight. So one of my suggestions is always set a timer and make yourself get up. Even if it's just to stand up and, stretch and walk across the room, it will save you from the soreness and all of that. Also, if you're talking to patients and even maybe other clinical staff, when you're face to face, you have a true advantage because they can see your facial expressions. They can see that you care. You can lean in. There's all these things, especially when you're meeting a brand new client for the first time and you're trying to let them know that I'm the good guy. I'm here to help you. I want to advocate for you. And they have to gain your trust, or they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you that they're not safe. They don't feel safe going home if they don't trust you. So, and I think this is important for managers to understand, as well as case managers themselves to understand, that it might take a little more time with that patient, where you might have walked in the room and been able to, spend a couple minutes with them and walk back out and see what they need. Sometimes over the phone, you have to use, I call them your spidey senses, and know when something's just not adding up, because you're hearing the information. And there might just be something that's telling you something isn't right. So talk to them more, ask them more questions, get to know them on a more personal level, ask them about their grandchildren or something that's going to create a relationship with them. It's harder to do over the phone, but it can be done. And it just takes a little bit more time. And so that time that we're spending walking back and forth from one room to another, we might need to spend it instead getting to know our patients a little bit better.
That's really good advice. And when we had to, vacate the units when in the peak of COVID, we did learn that, that you had to kind of triage over the phone and make those connections that you couldn't do visually. So it was quite a different experience for all of us who were so used to being on the units and in the rooms with the patients. And we had to learn to do that very differently from what our normal process was. One of the things that we did provide as we developed our hybrid model is our resources. So so many people have the binder, the binder of stuff that sits on your unit with you. And we developed that into an online digital platform. So it's available on your phone, it's available on your laptop. And that really helps when people went home to work. It's always available. And you don't have to lug that binder back and forth or, forget it at work. And now you don't know where to find your numbers or where you get the resources that you need. So that made a big difference.
Yeah, I love that, having it online. I used to call it my brain, and I carried it everywhere with me because it's like, this is everything. If I lose this, I cannot function. Yes. Yes. So I love that you made it easy for them to access anywhere. I'm sure that's really helped relieve a lot of stress for them too, to know that they have those resources there, whether they're working from home or whether they're working in the hospital. That's wonderful. So we talked about the nursing shortage and how you're handling that. I know that you are always looking for great team members to add to your team, the right people. What do you look for when you are hiring new members to your team?
Well, we expect that most nurses don't know how to do case management. So we teach them that when we hire them. We hire experienced nurses from just about any discipline. And then we provide a really comprehensive orientation. We do expose them to a lot of different units and a lot of different patient populations. So you really learn a lot over the 8 to 10 weeks you spend in orientation with us. Our Nursing Institute at the clinic offers a really wide variety of professional development and continuing education opportunities. And they also include the cost of our CCM certification exam once you're eligible to sit for that exam. So that's really a positive experience for everybody. One new thing that we've instituted to support our new case management caregivers in their first year is a new caregiver roundtable. And that meets every month. We provide some educational opportunities, but then it's just a very relaxed, open forum to learn from the other caregivers that are new to their role and beginning their journey. And we model that kind of after a nursing residency program. I think one of the most difficult things about being an experienced nurse that's moving into a new role is giving yourself permission to learn this new role. And I tell everyone that I hire all the time is, when you're moving from one bedside position to another bedside position, it's you learn the logistics fairly quickly. But when I moved from being a case manager, even though I had that background, I felt like a new grad for, quite some time. And it was really unsettling because, you've had so many years as a nurse and you expect yourself to be able to pick things up, and you kind of get really almost frustrated with yourself because you expect to be able to walk in and know what you're doing. And this is a completely new role. And it's okay to feel that way, because I think we all feel like that. But, we really focus on that support, especially in the first year, because you don't know what you don't know. So, we want to help you learn those new things. It's a lot to learn as a new case manager, and you don't realize all that stuff that you need to know. It's not an easy transition.
I think that the fact that unfortunately our listeners could not see that we were all shaking our heads, Michele, when you were explaining that, because it is so much the truth. In our Facebook group, Case Managers Community, new case managers are always saying, I don't get this. I don't understand. I don't know what I'm doing. Did I make the right choice? And it takes time. And I think you're exactly right. I love the way that you explained it. As nurses, we're used to being very confident in what we do. And we can move from one setting to the other, and we learn the ropes and we get right in there. And it takes a little bit longer. There's a lot of things that, as I always say, as a nurse, I didn't care if my patient had insurance, didn't have insurance, have the catalog of insurance. It didn't matter. If the doctor said start an IV, I started an IV. I never even knew if the patient had insurance. Now, all of a sudden, if I'm discharging that patient, I need to know, do they have a benefit for hospice? Do they have a benefit for a rehab? What rehab can they go to? Do they qualify? Just because they want to go and the doctor says they can go, do they even qualify for that? So there's so many things to learn. And I don't want to say that to scare people. I want to say that to just say, it's okay, breathe. It took you years to learn nursing. It will take you time to learn case management, but it's so rewarding when you can actually take care of the whole patient. I feel like it's a very holistic way of caring for our patients.
Yeah, and we tell everybody that, it takes you about 6 months to know what you need to know, and about a whole year to walk into your job and feel feel confident enough to say, yep, you can throw a whole lot at me and I can answer just about anything, but, know that you have the small village behind you to answer the stuff that we got to figure out every day.
I love that your organization recognizes that. I had the same thing when I first started, where my boss told me the exact same thing: 6 months to actually figure out what you're doing, and a year to feel somewhat comfortable at it. But you'll always need the support of your peers, and that they'll always be there. And I loved that, because I felt like it was okay for me to not, I was expected that I wouldn't know everything. And we are not used to that on the floor. We're just not.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. What do you think? What advice would you give to like a bedside nurse who is hearing about case management maybe for the first time and considering a move maybe as their next step in their career?
Yeah, I love this question, because we actually do get a lot of people that are interested, and they come to us because they're interested. And I usually say the first thing is like shadow. If you can, if you're already working at the bedside, go to the case management department. Ask if you can shadow for a day. Let them know that you're interested in this and see what it's really like. I think a lot of people have a little misconception about what case managers do. And it's very rewarding. Don't expect when you're shadowing that you're going to just like have to step in and be able to work at this level that this person has been working at for years, but just get a feel for what they're doing. And would you enjoy doing that? Also, look at what you're doing in nursing and what you enjoy. Do you enjoy advocating for your patients? If you do, that's a very transferable skill. Do you enjoy getting to know your patients on not just what they need medically, but like what else is going on with them and why maybe they keep coming back to the ER or to the hospital over and over? Are you interested in how you can help them to not do that? If those are the things you like about nursing, you're going to like case management. If you wonder what happens to your patients when you send them home, that was always one thing when I worked in the ICU. It was like, did they make it? Do they go back to normal? Or they, what's going on with them? Case management is pretty cool, because you get to see, you get to know where they're going next. And sometimes you can, find out, like they'll come back to you, or, they may call with a question a little bit later saying, okay, well, what do I do about this? Because they kind of have a relationship with you. And it's a very good way of kind of closing that. I do want to do a little bit of a plug here. We do have a webinar. It's a 1-hour webinar that nurses can earn 1 free CNE. If they go to casemanagementinstitute.com and they scroll down to our Foundations of Case Management series, they see it's a free, it doesn't cost you anything. You get 1 free CE. And we actually talk about what is case management, what is utilization management. I know you've said that you've worked in both of them, and they're very different careers. A lot of people say, well, I want to leave the bedside and I want to do case management or utilization management. I'm like, well, you need to know the difference, because if you pick the wrong one, you're going to hate it. They're very different. And so we want them to pick the right one and use this as an opportunity to earn some continuing education credit as a nurse, learn about the role of the case manager and the utilization manager and what they do. And also, even if they decide it's not the career for them, they will at least know how to work with the case manager in their institution and work with different case managers so that they now understand what the role is. Our hope is that they do decide to enter this wonderful profession that we all love. But I think it's better to learn before you kind of, no, we don't want to waste anybody's time. We don't want to waste the institution's time who goes and trains us and then say, I hate it. We also don't want to waste your time when you think you might want to go down this path, but then realize, oh, utilization management would have been better for me because I really don't want to know that much about my patient. I really, you can be burned out. It's not bad or good. It doesn't make you a bad person. But if you really need to advocate for your patients and it's something that you do instinctively, really look at case management. So I hope that answered your question. It was kind of like a roundabout way, but I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad you mentioned shadowing, because that is one of the things that we do for all our potential new hires is we have them shadow one of our case managers. And it's funny you said that, because they're shadowing an experienced case manager and they make it look so easy. So, they're walking in thinking, oh, I got this. And reality hits them about 3 or 4 weeks in, and they're like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" But that's okay. We get you over the hump, and you'll be really good at what you do. You just got to give yourself permission to get yourself there. It's okay. We all hit that wall. You'll get there.
And I think for somebody like me, who I never stayed in one area more than probably 5 years was the longest, because I always, once I mastered it, I wanted to move to something else. What I learned about case management is that you master it, but only at a certain level. There's always something new, because there's always that patient that is just, you don't know how to handle them and you have to go and learn more. So it kind of like, it fixed that itch that I had to constantly be like moving on to something different. And it's something that I was able to stay at for a long time, because it was continuing to challenge me on a level that I didn't find, like, once I figured out everything I needed for ICU, or once I figured out labor and delivery. It's not that you ever learn everything and you're an expert, but you kind of get into a routine. And what I liked about case management is that you still kind of had some adrenaline going on when you had a patient that needed discharge right away, but you weren't like, nobody was going to die. It wasn't the adrenaline of a code where somebody is going to die if you can't make this happen in the next half hour. So just an interesting thought for somebody who might be interested in moving into this area.
That's very true. I've worked as an ED nurse, and you always have that rush of when you hear the code overhead and you're like, oh, sit down. You're not there anymore. But you can't kill anybody in case management. But the challenges that we face, especially with our patient populations here, like Stephanie was saying, they challenge you every day because they come from everywhere. We never realized here that part of our day is geography lesson. Like, where did this patient come from and how are we getting them back? And we pull up Google all the time and we're like, okay, now I don't even know where this place is. So we have to figure out how to get them back to, we don't even know where. So we learn a lot.
That's very interesting. I love that you said that. Yeah, Stephanie, I think you'd like to chime in on that also.
Yes, I was just thinking about how, Cleveland Clinic is in Cleveland, Ohio. But there are so many cities, even in the state of Ohio, that we've never heard of before. And it could take 2-3 hours or maybe even 4, to get to those areas, those remote areas. So it's really very interesting.
So you're Googling, even if they're inside of Ohio, you still have to use
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Google, I think, is the case manager's best friend. Yeah, it's amazing how much we use that. And that brings up another good topic about, who is the right fit for case management. And you have to be a little bit comfortable with computers. We use computers a lot in case management. So if it's something that you're afraid of and you don't enjoy, I think now because of all the computerized charting that's going on, most nurses are fairly comfortable with that. But don't leave bedside nursing because you don't want to learn the EMR, because you're still going to have to learn how to use a computer. So just a little side note. Okay. Michele, I'd like to know, hopefully we have encouraged some people that they really would like to learn more about case management, maybe learn more about working at the Cleveland Clinic as a case manager. If somebody is interested in that, how can they find out more about working at Cleveland Clinic?
I would say just contact me directly. My email is KUHRM@ccf.org.
Awesome. Very good. Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking the time today to speak with me and the audience. I've learned so much, and I thought that I knew a lot about case management, but there's always more to learn. I never worked in the inpatient setting as a case manager, and that's one of those things that I wish I had done. So I feel like I've learned a lot about it today. I want to thank you guys for doing an excellent job. Is there any last things that maybe you want to say or ask?
There's a real good sense of accomplishment when you have such a complex case and you've worked with the multidisciplinary team and usually many of your case management colleagues to get this patient what they need, a safe discharge, and get them out the door. It's just such a good sense of putting all those puzzle pieces together. And I can't even just describe that sense of, I don't even know what other word but accomplishment, that you can walk home and just feel really good about yourself that you did this. And you probably will never have to do these puzzle pieces again, but you learn from that and you take that forward into every case you work on, because no 2 days are alike, but each day builds on another, and those skill sets go from one day to the next.
That was one of the things that was very surprising to me when I moved into case management. I always wanted to feel like I was impacting my patients' lives, that I was making a difference. And I didn't realize that I could do that from a distance. And we really do. Sometimes we're the difference between them being able to go home and live independently or be a victim or a patient the rest of their lives. And it's because of the discharge plan that we set up and the barriers we help them to overcome. And it's a very rewarding. So I understand what you're saying. It's almost you just want to shout from the rooftops and celebrate, like have a party and, and celebrate the fact that you actually were able to accomplish something. I always say, if you like the puzzles and like the escape rooms and all those kinds of challenges, case management is probably going to be something you enjoy, because every day is a different challenge, but it's not a challenge that you can't achieve. It's new. It's different. It's going to bring you some new challenges, and you have lots of resources, it sounds like, at Cleveland Clinic to help you with those challenges. Okay. Again, I want to
That's exactly correct. Yeah.
I want to thank you again. You guys have been awesome guests. I don't know what else to say. Stephanie? Yes?
I just want to thank you also, Deanna, for taking the time to interview us and help us to really articulate what it's like to be a case manager here at the Cleveland Clinic. This is a great opportunity, and we will definitely welcome all those who are interested.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, well, we're going to be saying goodbye for today. And again, I hope that if anybody is interested, that they will go ahead and reach out to Michele. She gave her email address. We'll have that in the show notes also. And of course, you can contact us at hello@thestayathomenurse.podcast.com, and we'll get you in touch with Michele if you would like to have more information.
Are you interested in learning more about case management? We have several options for you at the Case Management Institute. Want to dip your toe in the water? Check out our free 1CNE webinar, Case Management and Utilization Management, Career Options for Nurses. Ready for a shallow dive? Check out our book, Foundations of Case Management, a practical guide for RNs transitioning from nurse to case manager, available on Amazon. And if you're ready for a deep dive, we have our Foundations of Case Management courses. In these courses, you will learn everything you need to know to begin your career in case management without the time and expense of going back to school for a master's degree, so that you can have a rewarding career as a case manager even if you don't have tens of thousands of dollars and years to invest. You can find out more information on our website, casemanagementinstitute.com. And finally, if you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please share it with them. Until next time, adios from beautiful Puerto Aventuras, Mexico.